the Yankees are going to stay the course, and they should stay the course. There is nothing to suggest that Aaron Judge is suddenly finished as a hitter. Welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of Fair Territory. We are coming to you from New York City, the site of Game 3 of the World Series. Tonight, Monday night, Yankees versus the Dodgers. The series moves to Yankee Stadium. We all know that the Dodgers lead the series 2-0, but I still have this sneaking suspicion that this thing could still get close. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to watch the game tonight on Fox. You're going to watch the game tonight anyway. I'm saying that because really, all it takes here is one win to shift the whole momentum of this series. And the Yankees, with Clark Schmidt facing Walker Buehler tonight, stand a reasonable chance at home where they've been good all year. They've been good for many, many years. There's nothing in this matchup that screams, oh my gosh, the Yankees can't win. And if they win, the Dodgers are going to use, well, regardless, the Dodgers are going to go with a bullpen game tomorrow. And in a bullpen game, as we've seen, it's hit or miss. And I would suggest, with Blake Trinan now showing some signs of wear and tear, that a bullpen game would decidedly tilt in the Yankees' favor, knowing, of course, Luis Gil can be excitable. He's a kid, can be wild. That's his issue. But there are still a lot of reasons to believe that the Yankees can get back in this thing. 2-0, that kind of deficit is not insurmountable. The Yankees have faced it many times before in the World Series, most notably in recent times. I guess it's not that recent. 1996, they went down 2-0 to the Braves, won that series. Happened in 1956 against the Dodgers. That was, of course, the series with Don Larson pitched the perfect game. Yankees won that series. So there's plenty of historical precedent. There's also 11 straight years of not having a sweep in the World Series. So, again, is it likely that this thing is going to go back to LA? I can't say that it's likely at this point. But I can say that with some confidence, this does stand a decent chance of going back to LA because Game 5, remember, is Garrett Cole back on the mound for the Yankees against Jack Flaherty in Yankee Stadium. Obviously, a lot has to change for the Yankees. We know that. And the biggest thing that has to change is Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge has struggled the whole postseason for the most part. A couple of big home runs in the division series against Cleveland. But other than that, it's been an absolute mess for him. You can look at the numbers right here. He's 6 for 40. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 19 strikeouts in 50 plate appearances. His chase rate is way up. He does not look like himself. He's in a situation now, a classic situation of a hitter being caught in between. What do I mean by that? Swinging at balls, taking strikes. And there was a 2-0 pitch by Yamamoto the other night that Judge pointed to after the game when speaking with reporters. A pitch he should have handled, a pitch that perhaps he should have hit out. He didn't. And, of course, he is getting pitched tough. That's part of the issue here. If you look at the at-bats, you go on MLB.com and go to the at-bat app, and you look at each at-bat, where the pitches are. They're on the edges. And sometimes they're outside the edges, and sometimes he's swinging at those. But he isn't getting much to hit. Now, you can say the same of Juan Soto. You can say the same of a number of hitters who are faring well in the World Series. But Judge right now is carrying this burden. I'm interested to see how the crowd reacts tonight. I expect him to be cheered quite a bit early on, but if things go poorly for him and for the Yankees, who knows what might happen. He has been booed at Yankee Stadium before in October. In my opinion, this cat should be booed ever. My dad actually raised me not to boo anyone at any time. I know that's unrealistic, but Aaron Judge has given the Yankees an awful lot. He's struggling right now. No one wants to do well more than he does, and he understands better than anyone that he's struggling. Doesn't need to be reminded of it necessarily. And I do expect Yankee fans to rally behind him tonight, at least initially. Now, the other thing with the Yankees is they've got to play clean. Didn't do that in Game 1. It cost them, and it's a problem that they've had the whole year. This is a team that essentially slugs and wins games that way. Now, they've got strong pitching, of course, but at the same time, what they do is kind of bludgeon opponents. They don't necessarily play a crisp brand of baseball, and that's been the case for months now. We've talked about it before. Well, you're in the World Series against a very good team. You've got to do better. You've got to clean it up. So that's where the Yankees are as we enter Game 3. The Dodgers, of course, the big question entering tonight, the status of Shohei Ohtani. And we all saw Game 2, what happened when he slid into second base in the 7th inning on an attempted steal. You see it right there. Landed awkwardly and was in clear pain. You can see him rolling on the ground there. He, at the time, looked like he might be seriously injured. And at the time, we didn't know, whoa, was it the wrist? Was it the shoulder? Was it the elbow? You can see him walking off the field with the athletic trainer right there, and the trainer was kind of supporting Ohtani's arm. Turns out it was a subluxation of the shoulder. And this is an injury that we have seen before in baseball. And it's not necessarily a serious injury short term. It's essentially a partial dislocation of the shoulder. And because it's a subluxation, you can pop it back in. And that apparently is what has happened here. It's back in. He, according to Dave Roberts yesterday, was in really good shape, good range of motion, good strength. They were going to obviously wait for the test results, and he had to go through a workout last night, which he did, but he is expected to be in the lineup. That is what Dave Roberts has said consistently for Game 3. And on top of that, he shouldn't be compromised. And if you guys remember, the subluxation issue came up most notably in recent years with Fernando Tatis Jr. 2021, he did it 4 times, kept playing. And at one point said, I'm not even going to get surgery because I don't have to. He eventually had surgery. He had it during his suspension for PEDs, and he has been back ever since and just fine. I don't think it's ever going to get to that point with Ohtani, and I'll tell you why. Come next year, when he's pitching again, he is not going to be stealing 59 bases. He probably is not going to be as aggressive on the bases as nearly he was this season. So ultimately, this is perhaps a one-time thing. The other question people have is, okay, is it going to affect his hitting? According to Dave Roberts, because this is his left shoulder, his back shoulder when hitting, it should not be a problem. The front shoulder is more important for a hitter. And with that, Ohtani obviously is a left-handed hitter, and he should be, again, if everything checks out, if the MRI comes back clean, he should be okay. We'll see. I want to see his name in the lineup before I am confident indeed that he is going to play. But again, all signs point to Ohtani playing tonight. And that's great news for the Dodgers. They can win without him. They've won without players all season long. Betts missed almost 2 months. Freddie was in and out kind of in the last 2 months for a variety of reasons. His son's illness, of course, different injuries that he had. They won even without him as well. They've had 12 starting pitchers go on the injured list this year. They've had all kinds of things happen, but they've trucked on and they've done this time and time again. Muncy was another one who was out for quite some time. That said, Ohtani is the guy in that lineup batting first who you have to deal with and you have to plan around, and it makes everything different for the Dodgers. So clearly, they are a better team with him. The question tonight, Walker Buehler, he has been, in my opinion, better and better as he has gone on in this postseason. He's kind of learning to deal with what he has coming off the second Tommy John. What I mean by that is he has lesser stuff, but he is becoming more creative, more flexible on the mound, I guess you'd call it. He's doing some different things, and he is not going to be afraid of the moment. He's a guy that will welcome the atmosphere at Yankee Stadium. So, Game 3 tonight, we will see how this series is going to turn. Is it going to be quick? Is it going to finish in 4 or 5? Or are we going to have one of the more dramatic series in recent years? Are we going to go back to LA for Game 6 and potentially Game 7? It's all going to be determined in the next few nights. Time now for the Inside Dish, the part of the show where I talk about a story I've written, a trend in the game, something else that might be on my mind. And today, I want to go back to the start of the postseason. You might recall that I did my list of my top 5 postseason moments that I've covered. And I came up with this list after researching and after going back all through my career, which as a baseball writer started in 1987. So I've seen a lot of stuff. Now, the reason I want to revisit this today is because of the Freddie Freeman game, the Freddie Freeman moment in Game 1, the first walk-off grand slam in World Series history, the amazing call by Joe Davis, Freddie meet Gibby, the whole moment. It was a great, great night. It was one of the more electric things I have ever seen. And yet, I still don't know if it makes my top 5, and I'm going to show you why. Let's go back to the top 5 that I chose. Again, this was prior to the postseason. 2015 ALDS, Jose Bautista's bat flip. That was an unbelievably emotional, dramatic game in the division series against the Rangers. 2003 ALCS, Aaron Bruin's walk-off home run. Who could forget that? 2011 World Series, the David Freese game. That was one of the all-time classic World Series games. 2016 World Series, Game 7. The Cubs win, the rain delay, the whole thing. And my number one was the 1991 World Series Game 7, Jack Morris's 10-inning shutout against my colleague at Fox, John Smoltz. If you look at it, those games were all clinchers or games that took place late in series that had an incredible impact on the outcome of the series. One game that is not on there is Game 1 of the 1988 World Series at Dodger Stadium. I was at that game, covering for the Baltimore Evening Sun. That was the night Kirk Gibson hit the home run, the very, very memorable home run off Dennis Eckersley. So that didn't make my list, and the reason at the time I did not include it was because it was Game 1. Well, the Freddie Freeman homer was also Game 1. Now, I want to go back to the Gibson homer because it's a very funny story. That night, I'm in the Dodger Stadium press box, right behind the plate. It's a crowded press box. There were a lot more media covering World Series at that time than there probably are today, though this World Series is a bit of an exception. And there was a person who works for a radio station in Los Angeles right next to me. I don't know his name. He's still around. We talk about this all the time. And he said to me as Gibson walked to the plate, "Man, wouldn't it be great if Gibby hit a home run here?" And I looked at him and I said, "Dude, there is no way he's hitting a home run here." And of course, Kirk Gibson did hit a home run there. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And yet again, it's Game 1. Yet that was a pivotal moment. It stunned the A's. It was like an underdog in a heavyweight championship fight, kind of staggering the favorite early on. And the A's never recovered. The Dodgers swept that series. Gibson never took another at bat. Still, Game 1. Now, Freddie's home run, amazing. And it capped an amazing game. You see it there. You see the mic drop coming. It was an amazing moment. It was electric. It was a lot of fun interviewing him after that game. And yet, it's still Game 1. And Dave Roberts made a great point after it. He said, all right, it's a great moment, no doubt. We all relished that moment. But unless the Dodgers win the World Series, it won't be remembered the same way. And the same was true of Gibson's home run. If the Dodgers had not won that World Series in 1988 against the powerful A's, that was a great, great team. It was Canseco, McGuire, Eckersley, Stewart, La Russa was the manager. They were heavy favorites in that series. But if they had lost, Gibson's home run would not be remembered the same way. Same holds for this group of Dodgers. Now, they lead 2-0. They are the favorites at this point to win the World Series. To not win the World Series, they will have to lose 4 of the next 5 games. I get it. But the moment is different if the Dodgers do not hold on in this World Series. So ultimately, I'm not putting the Freddie homer on my top 5, just as I did not put the Gibson homer on my top 5. Do that in Game 7, we've got a different story. And do something like that in a deciding game of a World Series, then it enters the equation. Now, you could say, whoa, Ken, Freeman's home run was in the World Series. Bautista's was in the division series. Fair point. I will not argue that point. Same with Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone was in the ALCS. But those were incredibly dramatic moments, and they were incredibly pivotal moments in those series. They were essentially deciding moments. The Boone one certainly was. Bautista was not a walk-off, but it was unbelievably dramatic. So I am not going to fall victim to recency bias here. I'm not going to say just because the Freddie Freeman home run happened a couple of days ago and it was really cool, I'm not going to put it on my top 5 just yet. Let's see what happens the rest of the series. Let's see if Freeman or Judge or Ohtani or Soto or someone else hits a monster home run to decide this series in Game 7. Then we'll be looking at revising my list. But for now, I'm keeping it just the way it is. Time now for Grillin Ken. Let's get to your questions. First question comes from Thomas Gauvain, who asks, how many players in this World Series become Hall of Famers down the road? 7 feels like the sure bet, but Stanton could make it 8. Now, if you're going with 7, Thomas, I assume you're including Kershaw, who is not on the Dodgers roster for this World Series, but he certainly is a Dodger. The 7 who would be in would be Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, Garrett Cole, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Kershaw. That's the 7. The question is Stanton. Will he make 8? I've said this and we've talked about this quite a bit. If Stanton gets to 500 home runs, it's awfully difficult to say, no, not a Hall of Famer. He's won an MVP. He has amazing postseason numbers, which count in the minds of Hall of Fame voters. And he's a guy that really is a little bit of an unusual candidate. Obviously, he's been more of a DH in recent years, but We are seeing DHs get into the Hall of Fame all the time now. So I know some of his numbers do not add up to a Hall of Famer. I know at times in his career he certainly has not looked like a Hall of Famer. But when you're talking about the Hall of Fame, you're talking about the entirety of a player's career. So I expect that Giancarlo Stanton will get to 500 homers. And with his postseason record, which is pretty exemplary right now, I expect that he is going to be a strong candidate. Maybe not a lock, but a strong candidate for the Hall of Fame. That would make 8 Hall of Famers in this series. There have been series that have had a greater number of Hall of Famers, but this would be right up there. All right, next question. This one comes from Rich Pierce, who asked, should the Yankees bump Judge down in the order and also let him DH in Game 3? Okay, I understand where this question's coming from. It is certainly fair. When you see a player slumping like this, you might ask, well, why not just change the lineup? Why not put Soto behind Judge and have that kind of protection and go about it that way? The reason is that it would kind of give off signs of panic. And that's the last thing teams want to do at this time of year. They don't want to show panic. They don't want to do something that's going to be disruptive to the other players in the lineup that would be affected as well. They want to keep going the way they've gone the whole season. Now, you might say that's stupid. That's too rigid. You've got to adjust on the fly. But at the same time, let's not forget, Aaron Judge in April was brutal, right? Terrible April. And yet he snapped out of it almost just like that. And once he snapped out of it, 58 home run season. The Yankees are confident, maybe with misplaced confidence, but they're confident that he can do that again. And they expect he's going to do that again. And by dropping him in the lineup, or changing the lineup, I should say, that would send a message that we're losing a little bit of faith here. They don't want to do that. So Aaron Judge comes back to Yankee Stadium tonight. He's still going to be facing tough pitching. We know that. But at the same time, the Yankees are going to stay the course, and they should stay the course. There is nothing to suggest that Aaron Judge is suddenly finished as a hitter. He's having a rough time. It's baseball. It happens. It's happening for him again at the wrong time. All right, final question. This one comes from Trey Williams, who asks, what have you heard about the White Sox manager opening? Trey, I'm going to refer to a report from John Heyman yesterday on X. And John listed 3 of the finalists as Phil Nevin, the former Angels manager, Will Venable, who is the Rangers' associate manager. It's really bench coach, kind of a glorified title. And Grady Sizemore, who, of course, was the interim manager for the White Sox last season once they moved on from Pedro Grifol. John did not say those were the only candidates remaining, but he did say that those are 3 who are still under consideration. We don't know if perhaps they are looking at other guys. The White Sox early on, after they fired Grifol, their general manager Chris Getz said, we're going to do something from the outside. We're going to bring in an outside voice. Nevin would qualify. Venable would qualify. Now, Getz later amended that comment to say, you know what, we're going to consider Grady Sizemore too. That's fine. Grady Sizemore might very well have a future as a major league manager, but in my opinion, they need to hire one of the outside guys, whether it's Nevin, Venable, or someone else. Nevin actually, in my view, would be a good choice. 1, he's done the job. 2, he is a guy that relates well to players and seems to get the most out of players. I know, of course, the Angels struggled when he was there. That was less his fault than the players that they had on the field. So I don't know where they're going exactly with this, but it seems like this is heading into the final stages, and we'll see who they hire, and then we will assess exactly what the White Sox have done. I want to thank everyone for their questions. Thank you for watching, for listening. You know where to find us: YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Like us, subscribe to us. Enjoy the next few days with the World Series. We will talk to you real soon.
BetMGM first bet $1,500 offer when you use the bonus code FOUL. Get this offer when you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or at BetMGM.com. Sign up, enter that bonus code FOUL, and deposit at least $10 into your new account. Place your first wager, receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet loses. If it does lose, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. A gambling problem or concern? There's help. Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hey everybody, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. Fair Territory airs each week, and we'd love for you to become part of our community. Here's another video you might enjoy. See you next time.